Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going to continue in our series in Talmud Eser Sefirot. In last week's class, we completed Chelek Aleph, Perek Aleph, and we moved on to Chelek Aleph, Perek Bet, which means Part 1, Chapter 2. And this chapter is primarily concerned with the kav, the line of light that descends from the Ein Sof into the halal for the purpose of creating the various olamot called Adam Kadmon, Atzilut, Beria, Yetzira, and Asiya. The way in which these worlds are actually created and formed and made is through the kav, the line of light that God sends down into the void. We're going to learn the details of what caused this line to be drawn down from the Ein Sof. Was it Ein Sof's decision to send it down, or was it pulled from below? Meaning that the halal, the void that remained after the Tzimtzum, pulled it because it had a desire to receive. And if so, why was it a line? Why not it receive in abundance? Why is it receiving only a narrow line of light at this stage? So all of these details are going to be explained in this chapter, which is going to take many episodes in order to complete. But I'm excited for it, as we've been primarily concerned with chapter 1 this whole time on the concept of the Tzimtzum. So now let's finally move over and begin to explain the concept of the kav. I'm going to bring forth the words of the Arizal, his opening words in Perek Bet, regarding the kav that comes down, that's extending downward from the Ein Sof. Vehine, achar hatzimtzum hanizkor la'ayl, אשר אז נשאר מקום החלל והאוויר פנוי וריקני באמצע אור האין סוף ממש כנזכור לעיל. And behold, after the Tzimtzum mentioned above, wherein which a vacant space and an air remained in the middle of the light of the Ein Sof, הנה כבר היה מקום שיוכלו להיות שם הנאצלים ונבראים והיצורים והנעשים. Behold, there was already a space where the emanations, creations, formations, and the entities that were made could exist. The reason why it says 4 different classifications, emanations, creations, formations, and those things that are made, is because it's corresponding to the 4 worlds. Those entities within Atzilut are called emanations. The entities within Beria are called creations. The entities within Yetzira are called formations. And the entities within Asiya are called made. Those entities that are not emanated or created or formed, but rather na'asim. They are made, corresponding to Asiya. ואז המשיך מן אור אין סוף קו אחד ישר מן האור העיגול שלו. Then the Ein Sof from the Ein Sof extended a single straight line from the round light, the Or Ha'agol, the circular light of the Ein Sof, milamala lemata, from above to below. V'mishtalshel v'yored toch hachalal hahu. And this kav advances its way downward and it descends into the midst of that halal, meaning this void. So that was the words of the Ari. Now let's jump into the Or Pnimi, which is the commentary by Rav Ashlag on the Etz Chaim. Aleph. Al tata l'chashov שמפאת צמצום האור מהנקודה האמצעית היה איזו שינוי באין סוף חס ושלום. He's saying that you should not think that because of the tzimtzum that there was any change in the Ein Sof. God forbid. The Ein Sof doesn't change because of the tzimtzum. Because in spirituality there is no such thing as change. I've given this demonstration before, but I'll give it again in case anybody forgot. That in spiritual worlds, the concept of motion or change or time or space don't apply, at least not in the way that we understand it in this physical world. If I were to move an object from point A to point B, in physical terms, we all understand that this object is no longer in point A because I moved it to point B. So it disappears from its original position because I changed its position to point B. So now it's in point B. However, in the spiritual realms, the concept of change, in the sense that I'm changing the location, just as an example, of an object, doesn't cause the original position to change. It doesn't cause any true absence in the original form. So if I were to change the position of the cup in the spiritual terms, the cup would still be in point A. But it is now also in point B. Because there is no change in spirituality. Rather, it is an addition of form. Meaning, it is not only in point A now, because I moved it to point B, it's still in point A, but it's now also in point B. That's the rule in the spiritual. There is no absence. There is no disappearing. There is no changing or exchanging or substituting. Nothing like that really exists. No edits. No editing the current situation. The only edit that you can make is to make a copy of the current situation with the edit, but the first and original form still remains. It's like lighting a candle from another candle. Nothing diminishes from the original candle. But now there is an additional flame because there's an additional candle. I didn't diminish the flame of the first candle by lighting the second candle. I just added a new flame. So now there's two. Or I can give you another analogy. If I were to edit something on my phone, like a picture, when I'm done editing the picture, I'll click save, and my phone will give me two options. Save as original, or save as a copy. If I click save as original, it will edit the original file, altering the raw file itself. But if I click save as a copy, it will preserve the original copy, the raw file, but it will duplicate it with the edit that I have made. Meaning, now I have two copies. The first copy is the original unedited version, while the second copy is the edited version. In the spiritual worlds, whenever something changes, like for example, the tzimtzum, where originally it's just the light of Ein Sof fills all of reality. And then all of a sudden, Malchut of Ein Sof, the Nekudam Said, chooses on her own knowledge and on her own volition to say no to the light, thus causing the departure of the light from within her. Now she's empty of light, with a halal, with an empty void. That change in form that became revealed after the Tzimtzum is the edited copy. But it does not alter the original copy. Meaning, Ein Sof still exists in its full glory. The unity of Hu Ushmo Echad still exists. Ein Sof remains unaffected by the Tzimtzum. Now there is an additional dimension, an additional reality, a new world that is created separate from the original world of Ein Sof. And this new world contains the Halal, where Malchut has been contracted. It's called Malchut HaMetzumtzemet. But the original reality is when Malchut is still incorporated in the Ein Sof. So, Malchut of Ein Sof is still fulfilled by the light of Ein Sof. But now there's an additional reality where this Malchut has been contracted and remains in a state of Halal Panui. But this Halal Panui does not affect this Tzimtzum, this change in form does not affect the original reality. It just branches off from the original reality with the edit, with the change. So I gave a little bit of a lengthy explanation here on this, just the first sentence of the Rav Ashlag's commentary, because he's saying, do not make the mistake in thinking that because of the tzimtzum of the light from the Nekudayim Sayit, that there was any change in the Ein Sof, God forbid. Alright, let's move on. Ki ein ha'adar u'temura beruchaniyut ve'ein tzarich lomar b'makom ha'gavoa hazeh. He's saying because there is no absence in the spiritual, and it is not necessary for me to repeat this here in this section, because you should already know this. That's what he says. He says, Ein tzarich lomar. It's not necessary to say in such a lofty place, implying that he expects us, as the readers and seekers of this wisdom, to have already ingrained that principle in our memories. Ein adar beruchaniyut. There is no absence in spirituality. Ela, Inyan hatzimtzum ha'amur na'aseh lemalchut chadasha ve'nosefet al Ein Sof Baruch Hu. Rather, this whole concept of the tzimtzum that we've mentioned became a mahut chadasha, an entirely new essence, completely new essence. Venosefet, and addition, al Ein Sof Baruch Hu, to the Ein Sof, may he be blessed. The way that Rav Ashlag is explaining the Inyan HaTzimtzum, the concept of the Tzimtzum, is that it is a new occurrence, an addition to the Ein Sof. Before this Tzimtzum, there was no such thing as lack, as empty space, as a void. However, because of the Tzimtzum, the concept of lack and emptiness, absence, was born. That's why the Malchut HaMetzumtzemet, the contraction that happened within the Malchut, is described as Halal Panui. It's in a state of emptiness. And this is a Mahut Chadasha. This emptiness, this lack is considered to be something new, newly introduced. There has never been such a thing as lack up to now. The nosefet, and it is additional to the Ein Sof. How can someone say that it is additional to the Ein Sof? You cannot add anything to the Ein Sof. What can you add to the Ein Sof? Nothing. Ein Sof cannot receive anything. He's perfect. He's complete. There's nothing more you can add to the perfection of the Ein Sof. So what does Rav Ashlag mean when he says that it is nosefet al Ein Sof? It is additional to the Ein Sof. He means it's like adding a negative. It's true, you cannot add anything to the value of Ein Sof, because the value of Ein Sof is infinite. What's infinity plus 1? It's still infinity. If I add 1, even if I add a trillion, it doesn't change anything about the value of infinity. Infinity is still infinity. Infinity is not a number. It's a concept. So, you cannot add anything to Ein Sof. The only thing you can, so to speak, add is a negative, meaning you're adding a negative. Contracting. That's what the whole concept of contraction is, where you contract, you minimize the presence of the light, of the endless light, from the space that it was occupying. That's what he means. באופן שהאין סוף ברוך הוא נשאר בכל אחדותו הפשוטה, כמו שהיה מטרם הצמצום. So in this way, the Ein Sof remains in its full unity, הפשוטה, אחדות הפשוטה. It remains in its full, simple unity, just as it was before the Tzimtzum. The unity between him and his name, the light and the desire to receive, remains in its full, simple unity, just as it was, besod hu ushmo echad, in the secret of hu ushmo echad. ודבר הצמצום הנעשה על הנקודה האמצעית מובן ליציאת עולם חדש. I love this language. It's so rich. The matter of the tzimtzum that happened in the Nekuda Emsayit is understood as the emergence of a new world. Olam Chadash. It's a new world. Before the Tzimtzum, it was Ein Sof, Hu Shmo Echad. No lack. After the Tzimtzum, the light leaves. So now there's a new world that doesn't have the light. Imagine a world that is absent of light. Now, I'm not talking about physical light. Imagine a world without physical light, though. Even physical light. Imagine a world without physical light. And no electricity. No sources of light anywhere. That would be a world that I don't want to live in. Quite simple. I don't want to live in such a world. Not because I want to see the world, but because what's the point of anything anymore? I can't see. I can't appreciate. I cannot have clarity. I don't have any clarity in my life to move forward. And that's the metaphor of light. On a spiritual level, without light, a person is blind. It's like a blind person. And that's what this new world that is created after the Tzimtzum is like. It's a world that is completely and utterly absent of light. שמשם נסתלק האור ונשאר מקום חלל וריק על דרך שנתבהרו לעיל. And from this space, why is there a lack? Because nistalek haor. Because the light that was previously there departed. And what remained was a space of void and emptiness, according to what we've explained above. Don't forget that it was the Malchut's decision to perform the Tzimtzum. She chose to do it on her own. Nobody told her to do it. She did it. She chose to perform this contraction, saying no to the light, which caused the light to depart, in order for her to have the space to transform her desire into the desire to receive for the sake of sharing, thus aligning her form with the Ein Sof and thereby uniting with her in an even higher level of unity than she had before the Tzimtzum. That's the whole secret behind this Tzimtzum. So don't think that this is like a punishment for the Malchut of Ein Sof. She's not being punished. She chose to do it. It's not a punishment. She's not punishing herself either. This is part of the process of expansion. Step number 1, in order to expand, is that you need to contract. You need to perform a tzimtzum. You need to have some sort of a distancing from who you previously were and where you previously were. You need to go out into some foreign land and develop yourself there. That's the whole concept of Egypt. A person needs to emerge from the comfort of their home, go out into the world, into this world of Egypt, this world of confusion and darkness, develop themselves while they're there, acquire the skills and the lessons that they need to learn, and finally emerge victorious on the other end, even greater than you were before you went down. That's the whole concept of going to Egypt, going down to Egypt, so that you can come back out even greater than you were before you went down. So that's what happens here with the Tzimtzum. But just understand and appreciate the language of the Rav Ashlag, that the moment that the Malchut of Ein Sof fell from the Ein Sof, that she fell from the level that she had in the Ein Sof, and she became the lowest possible level of Aviyut, in this state of darkness, in this state of lack, she is regarded as having emerged into a new world. This world that she finds herself in, that she fell into, is a new world. ובמקום החלל ההוא ניצלו כל העולמות כולם כמו שכתוב לפנינו. And it is specifically within this space, this place of lack, that the Malchut of Ein Sof has fallen into. She's no longer called Malchut of Ein Sof. She is now referred to as Malchut HaMetzumtzemet, the contracted kingdom. Malchut. She's a Malchut. She's a vessel, but she has been Metzumtzemet. She has been contracted. It is specifically in this place that all of the worlds are emanated. All of the olamot, all of the various olamot that are destined to come into existence are emanated in that space. They are emanated in that place of vacancy, that place of lack, as we will explain later. So what we just learned right now is the meaning of the words of the Ari when he says that after the Tzimtzum remained an empty place in the middle of the light of Ein Sof. That this empty space does not cause a change in Ein Sof. It doesn't cause any sort of change within the Ein Sof. Rather, it is considered a new world. The Tosefet, and additional to the Ein Sof. It doesn't affect the Ein Sof. It's its own thing that exists in the middle of the Ein Sof, vacant space, in the shape of a circle. Don't forget that this space that we're talking about is described by the Arizal as a circle. The Makom HaChalal, the place of the void, is a circle. In the middle of the Ein Sof, that's why it's called Nekuda Emsayit, central point of the Ein Sof. Within her, there's this void, and all of the worlds are emanated inside of this space, inside of this void. In next week's class, we're going to learn what it means when the Arizal says, Hamshich min or Ein Sof kav echad yashar. That from the light of Ein Sof extended one straight line. I thank you for joining me, and I am excited to get into the details of this kav, because this is the moment that this study begins to become more serious and hopefully more practical in our lives and more enjoyable as well. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.